pulled out his phone and is like recording my face. And he's like, listen, man, do you know Russian mob? Do you know Russian mob? The worst travel scam I ever fell for was in Kazakhstan. Do you see this? This says exploring Kazakhstan. And there's actually some chocolate or something on it. I probably should have cleaned this sweater before making this video. But this sweater was given to me by Kazakhstan Tourism when I worked with them on a video series in Kazakhstan. This was in 2019, and it was an amazing trip. They flew me out there, expenses paid, along with a bunch of other YouTube creators and Instagrammers and, you know, just various internet people. It was a great experience. It just so happened that right when I arrived in Kazakhstan, I got scammed. I mean, I fell for probably the worst scam. I can't believe I fell for that scam. Just to set the story, as you know, there was the event that I was flown there for, but the event itself was only like maybe 6 days. And even though I wanted to see Kazakhstan, I was like, okay, this is pretty short to come all the way from Canada, because I had to fly. They were paying for my flights, but they were going to fly me from Canada to Germany to Kazakhstan and then like to the south of Kazakhstan. So like 3 flights. It was going to take like nearly 24 hours to get there. It was a crazy journey. And I was like, I'm going to be so tired and so jet lagged that I'm not even going to enjoy this experience, whatever it is. And you know, then a few days of fun and then I'll be going home and then I'll be jet lagged again. Like as soon as I get over the time difference, I'll be flying home. It just seemed kind of ridiculous. So I pitched them the idea of, hey, can you book my flight a week early? And I will go to Almaty, the city in the south of Kazakhstan that you are starting at. I will fly myself there. Or no, you fly me there, but I will spend a week on my own. I'll book a hostel and I'll just kind of like see the sights and relax, get over my jet lag, and then I'll be good to go. At first they were like, are you sure? Like they didn't really want to do it probably because they were worried about something happening to me, like they'd feel responsible. But I explained, listen, like I'm an experienced solo traveler. I named a bunch of different countries I'd been to. Like I can do this. And so off I went. You know, I had my flight and I was tired. Needless to say, it had been 24 hours. It had been 3 flights. I was a zombie on my feet when I arrived at that airport. But I'd booked a hostel. By some weird coincidence, I actually knew someone at that hostel, another guy named Nico, who was a Canadian backpacker who was just traveling through Central Asia at that time. But yeah, it was just incredible like coincidence that he was also there. Like the world feels so small sometimes. So he recommended me this hostel he was staying at. I booked it. I was like, this is great. Not only am I here early, but I'm going to know someone when I get there. But first I had to get there. And it was 3 a.m. when my taxi arrived, or when my flight arrived. And I needed to get a taxi or whatever. I don't think there was any Uber. But first I wanted to get cash because you're in a new country. You don't even know if if your credit card's going to work here. Like it's always a good idea to have some local currency. So once I got through the customs and I'm at the airport, I went to go line up at the ATM to get a small amount of cash for the next week in Kazakhstan. And as I lined up, as I went to pull out my money, and there was no lineup actually, I just walked right up. But immediately afterwards, these 2 Kazakh guys went behind me and were like, excuse me, are you looking for a taxi? Are you looking for a taxi? They spoke pretty good English. I would later find out some people there speak English, but like just average people at the airport, a lot of people don't. They have 2 languages there, Russian and Kazakh. And English, like, you know, so-so. But these guys spoke good English. They were like, are you looking for a taxi? And I was like, at first I'm like, no, because normally if someone's approaching you with a taxi, that's like a scam site, number one. Or not necessarily a scam, but like, I don't know, if they're desperate, or they might try to rip you off or something like that. So Normally I know better to just like not talk to people who are like trying to approach me at an ATM. Like, what the heck? So I was like, no, I don't need a taxi. But they were like, come on, where do you have to go? Good price. Where do you have to go? And like they kept like persisting. And then I was like, all right, do you have a meter? Do you have a meter in your taxi? Because by which I mean like the price, right? Because if they don't, like how do I know what the price to my hostel is going to be? I have no idea. Like I just figured out the currency convert. I barely know what the currency rate is. I just have a rough idea of like how much money I'm pulling out of the ATM. But then they were like, yeah, we have a meter. We have a meter. I have a meter, come. And I was like, all right, this feels weird. Like there's obviously some other taxis outside, but this guy was like my age or like a couple years younger or a couple years older. Like he was a young guy. So for whatever reason, I was like, all right, fine. Like I got my money, went out, followed this guy. Followed the two guys actually. There were two of them who were walking. I thought they were friends. I thought they each had a taxi. I don't know what their deal was, but we get there. And it's just a car. It doesn't really look like a taxi. It's just a car. And they're both getting in. And I was like, oh, you both have, like you're both driving with me? And the first guy who was talking to me was like the taller of the two was like, oh yeah, friend. He's friend. I was like, oh, okay. Now, you might be like screaming at your phone or computer screen right now, being like, Dan, like, what are you doing getting in the car with two strangers? It doesn't even look like a taxi. What are you doing? You're getting kidnapped, man. And okay, in my defense, as I said, remember the 24-hour flight? I was jet lagged. I was a zombie on my street. I was not thinking clearly. And I think the fact that my flight arrived, it was 3 a.m. I'm not saying that's why they targeted me, but maybe that's part of it. Maybe they specifically know this time that these flights arrive that have brought like foreign guys from Europe or from Canada who are gonna not know what's going on, and maybe there's not so much airport security at that time, so that it's 3 a.m, like weird things happen at that time. So, so anyway, we get there and I'm like kind of suspicious about why there's the two guys. And they're like opening the trunk. They're like, come, put your bags. And I'm just like, wait, is this a taxi? Like you said you have a meter. You said metered taxi. And the guy's like, yes, it's a phone app. And then he opens up his phone and he's like, look. And he presses some buttons and there's an app. And I mean, it looked like just a taxi thing that with the numbers that go up, but it's on his phone. And I'm like, okay, like I've never seen this in my life, but I've never been to Central Asia. I've never been to Kazakhstan. So maybe this is actually how it's done here. So I was like, whatever. And I remember as I was putting my bag in the trunk, I was actually thinking like, these guys are probably going to rip me off a bit, but like, whatever. Even if they charge me an extra $10, I don't care. I want to get home. I'm tired. It's actually started to rain a bit outside too. So like, it's just, I just want to get to this hostel and go to bed. I really need to go to bed. So we get in. My bag's in the back. I sit in the back seat. We start to drive. I looked it up. It's about a 20-minute drive. So like I have some idea in case they're trying to take me to the middle of nowhere. I know how long the trip should take. And I think my phone, I could tell like, okay, we're heading in the right direction. So they're not completely like just taking me to Moscow or something, And as we drive, it's like very, very quiet, But then like at some point the guy's like, first time to Kazakhstan? And I'm like, yes. He's like, what will you do? I'm like, travel. That was like the conversation. It was like nothing much. Yeah, so we finally get there. 25 minutes later, we get there. And again, it's like lightly raining. It's kind of chilly. It's a chilly night. It's pitch black. But across the street, like we park on the side of the street, and across the street is the hostel. Like I know we're at the right place. It's just it's not right on the road. There's like some trees and a little grassy area, and then the space. And by the way, my friend Nico like specifically said he'd be awake for me. So because otherwise like the whole staff might be asleep or whatever. So I got this guy inside, a friend who's awake for me. I don't have any data or anything on my phone. I can't tell him I'm here. But like if I go in and just knock the door, like he's gonna be up or he's gonna wake up. He's gonna be waiting for me, But meanwhile, I'm in the car, and the guy pulls out his taxi phone app and shows me the price. And I got to make up a number because I don't remember how the Kazakh currency conversion is. But like the amount he names is like nearly everything I just took out of the ATM for the week. It's like 240 euros. Right? And Kazakhstan is a country where like even 10% of that, even 24 euros is too much. Like this should be like a $10 taxi ride. And they're asking for like 200, 300 bucks. Like they're asking for something they're asking for what I just paid for my like plane ride. And I'm just looking at that number. I'm like, oh, fuck. And I was like, listen, guys, like I'm not paying this. I don't know what your deal is, but I looked up the rough prices before I got here. I know what the currency rate is. You're not going to get me. Like, I was just like, just cut it out. Like, just give me a fair price. What are you doing here? And they were like, this is a fair price. This is the taxi meter, and they doubled down on like, this is the price. This is the Kazakhstan price. I'm like, no, man, no. I know what you're doing. Listen, okay, let me just go to the hostel and I'll talk to the person inside and we'll talk about this. And he was like, no. And then he opens the glove compartment. And remember, there's two of them. I think the friend opens the glove compartment and pulls out this. This part was insane. He pulls out a laminated paper, right? This nice paper, or maybe it was even like a book of papers, but I just remember this. I was tired, but like I just remember these laminated papers with all these different prices and hotels next to it. So it'd be like I don't know what hotels they have. It'd be like I don't think they have a Four Seasons, but like it'd be like Four Seasons Kazakhstan, like price 300 euros, or like Main Square downtown 250 euros, like. And they named all these sites in the city, and they had their fake bullshit 10 times too high price on the sheet. And I remember in that moment being like, oh, these bastards. Like by this point, there's no doubt in my mind I'm being scammed. But I fully understand they're getting me. But I remember being like, almost like... What's that meme from the movie Anchorman? It's like, I'm not even angry, I'm impressed. Like that's how I felt. I'm like, these guys, this is like a very intense scam I fell into. They got the fake app on their phone, they have the papers. Like this is, I almost want to give them a bit extra for the effort, but I'm not giving them 250 euros. And so at this point, I'm like, okay, listen. My friend is in that building across the street. Walk with me. We'll talk to him. If he says this price is fair, I'll give you every single dollar you ask for. Just let me walk there and we'll talk about this. And at this point, the jig is up. Like, at this point, they know I know it's fake. I know they know it's fake. And the tactic changes a bit. Next thing I know, the guy has like pulled out his phone and is like recording my face. And he's like, listen, man, do you know Russian mob? Do you know Russian mob? He kept saying that. Do you want to find Russian mob? Have you heard of Russian mob? And suddenly I'm just like, okay, this is getting fucked up here. What's happening? And the thing about being a foreigner in that situation is you never really know who is a bullshitter and who's telling the truth. Chances are these two guys are just a couple of local bums who are bothering tourists like me and making their money that way. Every country has these people. It's not a Kazakh thing. Every country has people who try to take advantage of people from far away. And this was the Kazakh version of that. But then again, they're criminals. They literally have a fake app on their phone. So it's possible that they are involved with the mob. And it's possible that I can lose a lot more than just 200 euros or whatever if I don't cooperate right now. And you don't know in that situation. And I wanted to reach for my phone and start recording or have some documentation of what was happening. Even in the back of my mind, I think I was thinking like, oh, if I can get my phone recording them, this will be a good YouTube video. You know, the YouTuber brain never turns off. No, I wasn't thinking at that level. Later, like when it was all over, I was like, I wish I'd filmed them. But in the moment, I was like, if I pull out my phone, they might get violent. Like the vibe has changed. Things are not playful. They're not asking me, why are you in Kazakhstan anymore? Like they are threatening me. And I was like, man, just put your phone down. Okay, like I think I was just like, I'm not going to pay that much, but like, we'll work something out. I was like, we'll work something out. I'll pay you. Okay. Just put your phone away and come on. And then we got out of the car. Oh yeah, but I forgot. At one point, they were like, when I was like, I'm not gonna pay. They were ready to drive off. They were like, then go. I was like, let me grab my bag. They're like, no, go. So like they wanted to drive away with my suitcase. That was the next altercation. But after that, I was like, I'll pay you. Okay, just open the suitcase. I'll pay you, or open the trunk. I'll pay you. So I get out of the back seat. They get out of the front seat. The three of us are there, and we're like standing by the suitcase, and I'm just like, oh, fucking idiots. I'm like, open my wallet, and they know I have money because they were literally, where did they meet me? The ATM, obviously. And I'm just like, literally, like I can see the hustle. I'm like looking for my friend Nico. I'm like, oh man, could you just like wake? If I just shout, will you wake up? But like, they're gonna be angry. I can't just shout, but like. And I'm like, can I just grab my bag and run? So many thoughts were going through my mind, but like there were two of them. It wouldn't have worked. But, so yeah, in the end, I pulled out like the amount that was like 100 euros. It was like half of what they wanted, maybe a bit under half. No, maybe it was 120 euros. I just remember being like, this is like about half. And I just like shoved it in the guy's hand. I was like, this is more than enough. And I just grabbed my bag and like started to walk. And they were just like saying something to each other in Russian or Kazakh and then I think they were speaking Russian. And then they just got in the car and drove off. Yeah. And then like 10 seconds later, I'm knocking on the door. My buddy Nico opens. I was like, hey, man, you made it. Welcome. And I'm like, boy, do I have a story to tell you. I was just happy to get to bed. And as I was laying in bed, like, I remember thinking, oh, I wish I'd filmed this somehow. But also I remember thinking, like, sometimes you pay the tax. Sometimes you pay the tax for being a traveler. And that's what I think of when I get scammed. It's just like, I paid the tax to enter the country. I wish that tax had gone to someone who deserves it more, not those jerks. That's the part that bothers you, like, late at night. It's like, I wish those people didn't get my money. But obviously, like, in retrospect, you remember the obvious mistakes you made, you know. Talking to strangers at the ATM in the first place. Agreeing to get in a taxi with them. Continuing to get in the taxi when it didn't look like a real taxi. Continuing to go with a phone meter that didn't look like a real meter. But the biggest of all, just like two people in the taxi to begin with. That was the biggest red flag. And, you know, that... I thought I was a more experienced traveler. I thought I wouldn't fall for something like that after, like, you know, so many years of backpacking. And I never told these people, the Kazakh tourism people, even when I met them. I never was like, by the way, I got robbed. Because I was embarrassed. Because they were like, oh, are you sure you want to come on your own? And then if I literally told them, like, my first moments in the country got robbed, I would have felt... I did tell a couple other friends on that trip, but, like, I kept it mostly to myself. But now the secret is out. The world knows about the time I got scammed in Kazakhstan. And yeah, I mean, if this video were to ever go viral, it probably won't. But like, if someone from Kazakhstan were to see it, this is the Almaty airport. This is the 3 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever time it was. This is the middle of the night. Two guys approaching tourists. I hope they get arrested. Like, I hope something, changes. But the thing is, even if they do, someone else will be there to take their place. Scammers are like the weeds of the world in the gardens that decent people are trying to build. And you just got to do what you can to avoid them, to remove them, not to fall into their traps. But when you do, it's a tax. I got taxed when I arrived in Kazakhstan, and that's how I think about it. Have you ever been scammed before by a taxi driver? Have you ever seen something like this? Leave a comment, let me know, and I will talk to you next time.